and this is a very typical, this is a very stereotypical, just made a whole new word there. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Olivia. I'm autistic. I was diagnosed a little over 3 years ago as an adult, and now on my channel I make videos trying to bring awareness to what autism looks like in females and adults. If this sounds interesting to you, I would super appreciate a like and subscribe below. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back. I know it's been a long time since my last video, which seems like the recurring theme. Every video I'm saying this, and I really truly am sorry for being MIA for really this entire year to date, and there's been a few reasons for that, but the main reason actually that has really discouraged me from filming is the fact that after living in this house for most of my life, and we live in this beautiful area that's really secluded and kind of in the boonies up on a mountain, and we've had like no neighbors, but after all this time somebody finally bought the lot directly behind where I'm sitting right now, and they're building on it. And so every day, day in and day out, there are tractors moving and bulldozers moving and crushing rocks and being super loud and all of the other construction noises. And so this discourages me from filming because, one, it just makes me grumpy because I'm highly sensitive about sound and there's just all this sound constantly going on. And then two, I feel like I can't film because of how loud the sounds are, that the video is going to be bad because there's all these annoying sounds in the background and you guys aren't gonna like the video. And I've kind of fallen into the mindset of like, why is my voice needed? There are so many awesome autism self-advocates and YouTube channels and influencers that have, you know, a bigger reach than me, have a bigger audience than me, so why is my voice needed? But yesterday proved that autism awareness is so needed, no matter how small the voice. What happened yesterday prompted this video that I'm filming today. This is definitely going to be a long video, prereq, and it's going to be kind of like a venting video, so also just beware of that, because this video is going to be all about autism and vaccines. And this video is probably going to get like demonetized because vaccines are such a taboo topic these days, so maybe no one's going to see this video, but nonetheless, I'm putting it out there because I think it needs to be put out there. I've never done a video on this topic, but what brought me to do this video today was because yesterday I saw this post on Instagram, which I'll show in a photo above me, just stating autism being related to vaccines, and this is not a new thing that people are suddenly claiming. And yet for some reason I saw this post and it just really irritated me, just made me mad. It's basically saying that the reason there is suddenly a higher rates of people getting diagnosed with autism, it has something to do with the fact that there are more and more vaccines being put out and people taking. That is just stupid on so many levels, and so that's what I want to talk about today in this video, because I think it's something that needs to continue to be debunked, even though it's been debunked a bunch of times, which I'll get into, but clearly it is still very prevalent to people who know nothing about autism, that they think that this is reality when it is in fact very much not. One more thing I want to say before getting into this video is that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not some super duper expert on autism and where it comes from or how it comes about. These are just my opinions and my feelings, and you know, in all of my videos I only talk about my personal experiences with autism or experiences that people around me have had with autism that they've shared with me. But so I just want to just put that in so that people aren't going in the comments going, well, what do you know? Are you a medical professional? No, I'm not. But I am autistic myself, so I think I have some good life experience for this. If I'm looking down, it is at my handy dandy notes of stuff from the actual professionals and doctors and scientists about this topic that I've written down to go over with you today. So if I'm looking down or you hear this, this is what I'm looking at. So the first time that autism and vaccines were ever correlated was in this 1998 article published in The Lancet. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Specifically between autism and the MMR vaccine, which is measles, mumps, and something else that I don't remember because I didn't write it down. The reason it was this vaccine in particular that they thought there was a correlation was because it had mercury in it. That was this doctor's main concern, was that these vaccines had mercury in it as, I believe, a preservative. And so they said that because there was mercury in these vaccines, that kids who got it were developing autism. This article was actually very quickly debunked and disproven and taken off of this publication. And there has been countless studies since this article proving the exact opposite, that there is no correlation between autism and vaccines. And yet, it unfortunately is still a huge myth that a lot of people who are uneducated believe in. For the people who believe in this correlation, they usually bring it back to their belief that Big Pharma is this evil entity who wants people to continue to stay sick so that they can continue to buy medicine, and Big Pharma becomes richer and richer and richer. Now, whether you believe this or not, I'm not going to tell you my personal opinion on it because it's a political thing that it just doesn't matter. But whether you believe this or not, this is completely wrong for the fact that autism is not a treatable and especially not a curable disorder. There is no medicine that a doctor can give an autistic person that can help them with their autism. There are no magic autism pills. There are no doctors prescribing medicines to treat and help a person's autism. Are there therapies and different things that you can do to help your autism? Absolutely. But there is absolutely no medication that has any kind of effect on autism. If there was, I probably would be taking some, but there is not. If you're depressed or you're anxious, there's antidepressants, anti-anxiety pills, and so on and so forth. But there is no anti-autism pills. So whether you think Big Pharma is bad or not, whether you think they're really trying to continue to keep people sick or not, for this specific correlation with having to do with autism, it's just that your whole theory blows up with the fact that autism cannot be treated with medication. So there's no money to be made off of autistic people with Big Pharma because there's no medicine. Simple as that. But so if there isn't any correlation with the fact that there's more and more vaccines and more autism diagnoses, which I always get that word wrong. I still don't know how to say the plural of diagnosis. Diagnosis is, so I'm just going to say diagnoses. This video. But so if there's no correlation between both of them going up, then why are autism rates going up? Now, I'm going to explain a few different reasons that I believe is true. Again, these are my personal opinions, but they're very much backed up by facts. The first one is that autism is a very relatively new condition. Not that it's new in the sense of it just became a condition. New in the sense of doctors and scientists and anybody didn't know it was a thing until just last century. The first person diagnosed with autism wasn't diagnosed with autism until 1938. This man actually just recently passed away last month. I think he was 89. But so the very first person who was ever diagnosed with autism literally was just still living up until a month ago. As with any new discovery, whether it's a new animal, a new species, or a new illness, a new bacteria, whatever it is, you're not going to know everything about the topic right off the bat. It's going to take time. There's going to be research and evolving information and beliefs into said topic. So the first person ever diagnosed with autism, it wasn't even 100 years ago. So of course there's going to be evolving information and beliefs on the topic. It is because of these evolutions that more and more people are being diagnosed. It's not that there's more and more people becoming autistic, it's that more and more people are being diagnosed autistic. It's not like there's suddenly an explosion of autism out of nowhere because of vaccines or whatever. It's because now there's more understanding and knowledge of what autism actually is and how it presents itself in individuals. The biggest growing population of autistic people are females, and it wasn't even that long ago that professionals believed that females couldn't even have autism. They thought it was strictly a male disorder. Hans Asperger, who discovered Asperger's syndrome, which is now just part of the autism spectrum, he did no testing on females. So of course the population of autistic people is exploding because half of the population was never even considered to be able to have that disorder. Now doctors and professionals and researchers know that females can in fact have autism, so more and more females are being diagnosed autistic. Finally, after years and years and decades upon decades of people, one, thinking either females can't have autism altogether, or two, not knowing how autism presents itself in females, because autism presents itself in females very, very differently, hence why they thought females couldn't have it in the first place. And it's not only with women, it's with males as well, and adults who don't fit the stereotypical Rain Man symptoms of autism. Now, people who are autistic can absolutely be like Rain Man, but people who are autistic can also be like me, who appear normal. And when you appear normal your whole life because you go through life masking, of course you're not going to be diagnosed with it until you're older and the research has caught up with the fact that, oh, hey, actually I do have this, I just don't fit the stereotypical symptoms. I mean, even in the 60s, which is not that long ago, they thought that autism was not based on genetics or biology, but on your circumstances and basically external factors. They thought it was because of cold parenting. They thought you were autistic because your parents were cold and your mothers weren't nurturing, and they thought that's why somebody could have autism. It wasn't until the 80s, people, which literally is less than 40 years ago, that they realized, oh, hey, actually this disorder is genetic. And it's something that's in you, and not an external thing that causes you to have this and to get this. So the fact that it wasn't until the 80s that the DSM, which is the diagnostic textbook for all sorts of disorders and stuff, including autism, that they called it a developmental disorder. Not until the 80s that they called this. I was born in the 90s, so that's only 10 years before I was in existence that they even found that basic fact out. So of course people weren't getting diagnosed properly because they didn't even know that it had anything to do with your brain until the 80s. Now the fact that it is genetics and has to do with your genes and whatnot brings me to another reason that there's an explosion of people getting diagnosed with autism, is because if it's a genetic condition that can be passed down through generations, the generation growth is exponential, hence the autism generation growth would be exponential as well. There are more and more generations, there are more and more people, which means there are more and more autistic people that are reproducing and passing their autism down. And so if one autistic person has 3 kids and 2 of those kids have autism, then those 2 autistic kids have 3 kids of their own and 2 or 1 or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It is exponential growth. Another reason that autism is exploding. Not because vaccines are becoming more and more of a thing and they're becoming more and more terrible. It's because there's more people in this world that can have autism, that do have autism, that are then understanding they have autism and getting diagnosed with autism. This growth also has to do with the fact that the diagnostic criteria for autism has grown and has broadened, and it's become this autism spectrum disorder instead of very narrowed. So the spectrum is a huge place. Obviously, as I was saying, there can be people who are autistic who are like Rain Man, who are severely autistic and have high support needs, and then there's people like me who can pass off as a normal person. And so again, as the diagnostic information furthers and grows, as the differences in how autism can present itself in people grows, the more and more people who are going to be diagnosed with autism, hence the growth. Now that doctors and professionals actually know and have a better understanding of what autism looks like in females and adults specifically, and they know it's not just some little young boy disorder, more people are going to be diagnosed. And, you know, people like me who and there's so many women older than me. There have been people who have told me in my comments that they're 70, 80 years old who just got diagnosed with autism because when they were young, of course they weren't going to get diagnosed with autism. Autism maybe wasn't even around then. They didn't even know it was a thing then. So again, as the information grows, as we become more knowledgeable about this disorder, more and more people are going to get diagnosed. It's not that there's more and more, there is, like I was saying, the exponential growth of the population. So there literally is more and more autistic people, but it's not just that. It's that more and more autistic people are being diagnosed and not just flying under the radar and going their whole lives wondering why they're different. Going back to these vaccine morons that think there's a correlation, again, you see this in the comments of that post that I was telling you about that prompted this video, is that they always somehow then bring it back to either Big Pharma. This still has to do with Big Pharma, but they bring it back to the Amish. They're like, well, the rate of Amish people who have autism is so low and they don't get any vaccines, and so thus there is a correlation, because what else would it be? The reason that there is probably barely any Amish people who are diagnosed as autistic is because they are Amish. They don't go to regular medical professionals. They aren't going and trying to get diagnosed with autism. They're not being overseen by teachers and professionals who might spot autism in their children. So obviously the rate of autism in Amish communities is lower. It has nothing to do with the fact that they get no vaccines or less vaccines. And this brings me to the point that I know plenty of autistic people who have never had one vaccine in their entire lives. So if autism comes from vaccines, how did they get autism exactly, you wonder? Oh, maybe it's because it's not from vaccines. Now, I've said this in, I think, a few of my other videos, but my mom literally was like, Olivia came out the womb how she is. I came out autistic, okay? There was no external factors that contributed to my brain being how it is. God made my brain how it is. I was born with the brain that I have. There is no external factors that played a part in that. And obviously I'm a Christian, you know this. If you're not a Christian, that's totally fine. I'm not trying to like shove Christianity down your throat. But in my opinion, my God is almighty, all powerful. If somebody saying that a vaccine or whatever could contribute to how I am in my Christian view and my belief in my God being almighty, all powerful, diminishes his almighty power. Because it would mean that, well, no, like something could change how God wanted you to be made. And in my opinion, that is just absolutely not an option. Most autistic people say that they have been the way they are for their entire lives from the second they were born. Whether they believe in God or not, they think this and they feel this. And it's very just kind of flat rude to insinuate that we've been changed by some external factor. Again, this has nothing to do with Christianity. It's just rude to think that like, oh, you would have been somebody else if you hadn't gotten vaccinated or you hadn't done this or that. No, I am me, and I've always been me, and I've always been the same me, regardless of if I got vaccinated or not. Now, to just wrap a pretty little bow on this topic is that in the beginning of this video, I talked about that 1998 article that first linked autism vaccines in the Lancet, and I said it was shortly after disproven and taken down and blah, blah, blah. Well, because of the outcry and the worry from mothers who thinking that autism could be caused from vaccines because of this article, vaccine manufacturers actually stopped using the mercury additive as a preservative in the 2000s because of these concerns, because parents weren't wanting to vaccinate their kids. So they actually took out what this article said was causing said autism, so they took it out of the vaccines anyway. So even if that was true, that this mercury was causing autism, which it is not true, it has been disproven, but even if somehow in this crazy fantasy world it was true, that part was taken out of the vaccines. So then how could it still be true? But that's not all. Just wait. To put the extra pretty little tiny extra bow on top, the doctor who correlated these things and who proposed this link between autism and vaccines actually lost his medical license in the 2010s because of all of his false studies and incorrect studies and all of his wrongdoing. So the article, or the doctor who wrote this article is no longer even a doctor because he falsified his findings, and all of the other proof that I have mentioned and all the other proof that I'm sure that I have not mentioned in this article, I think makes it very, very, very crystal freaking clear that autism has nothing to do with vaccines. And if you think otherwise, then you just continue to be blind and ignorant, but I guess that's on you. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video and going through my rant. I would like to know your opinion on experiences you've had with this topic or what you think on this topic. And yeah, hopefully people actually see this video and it's not completely like demonetized or banned by YouTube. Okay, everyone, thank you so much again. God bless. Have a wonderful week. And I promise that I will see you next week with another video.